y'all do not buy a Kia car. Whatever you do not buy anything from Kia. If you see Kia, run as fast as you can, because your is going to get stolen and you're going to be the only one that has to pay the cost.
Tragic. You know, back when I was a young and budding car enthusiast back in my early 20s, one of the most exciting jobs that I got, or at least I thought was exciting, was to be a customer service rep for Enterprise. Now, if you don't know anything about rental-car companies, one of the biggest things that they focus on is getting customer feedback about the car so that they can send it back to the manufacturers, make adjustments, and fix it. So when I was working at Enterprise, I got to test drive many different cars. In fact, I got to test drive over 30 cars as I was working there in the 2 years I was. And I got a chance to experience some really cool things. And one of them, when I first got there, was the Kia Optima Hybrid. Don't ask me why a Kia Optima Hybrid was exciting to me. I was poor and I was a college student. I don't know. But at the time, the Kia Optima Hybrid was something that was to be marveled at, and I enjoyed driving that motherfucker down the highway. For whatever reason, despite me having a 20-year-old 1992 Ford Thunderbird at the time, and it was definitely a hoopty, I did not want that Kia Optima. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And as time went on, I never actually bought one, and I've had many cars since then. And in this video, you're going to find out why. What's up, guys? My name is Chris, and welcome to The Breakdown, where we talk about everything cars, news, and reviews. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Perhaps you have been keeping up with the Kia Boys instance. Perhaps you haven't if you don't own one. But the Kia Boys theft ring is essentially a crime spree that happens and allows for young criminal lads, to be able to take your car without your permission. And absolutely that's wrong, but the bigger question is, why were they able to do it? And in today's video, I wanted to explore not just the Kia Boys, but more importantly, what happened and why they were able to steal it in the first place. With that being said, stick around and stay tuned, because you are now watching The Breakdown. Before I get started, I want to let you guys know now that this is not legal counsel. This is not legal professional advice, and nor am I an attorney. So if you need to find anyone regarding your issue with your Kia, you need to go talk to an attorney. But I will leave some links in the description below regarding the Kia class action lawsuit settlement. So feel free to go click on those links, and hopefully they will help you get you out of your situation. But anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So Kia has been around for a very long time. Kia has been around since 1952, and they began their name as the Kyungsung Precision Industry and changed their name over to Kia. The name Kia is a acronym for Ki, which means to rise, and which means Asia. And so Kia would eventually work themselves out of being a bicycle company into a car company. They worked under several different licenses with different companies. Many of them include Honda, include Mazda, as well as Ford. And so by 1997, Kia would run into a lot of problems, one of them being bankruptcy. 1997, Kia would run into a massive $12 trillion worth of debt and would declare bankruptcy, and is a result of the Asian financial crisis of 1997. If you don't remember what the Kias of 1990s looked like, let me go ahead and paint a picture for you. They were ugly. This did not stop Kia, as they were a very resilient and persistent company. One of the beauties that came out of that bankruptcy was that the Hyundai Motor Group was able to buy them out, and they were able to continue their operations as a result of the bankruptcy, as a kind of an agreement, so to speak. Between the early 1990s and 2000s, Kia would be trying to find themselves. Let me tell you, they was down bad. But the real beauty and the real magic that comes from Kia that you see today is of two different men, one of them being Tom Kearns and another being Mr. Peter Schreier. Now, you probably have never heard of these two designers, but you have seen a lot of their influences, both of which come from both German and American companies. Tom Kearns coming from General Motors, as well as Peter Schreier coming from Audi, who was responsible for the TT, as well as Tom Kearns being responsible for the Cadillac CTS. And so this is a really interesting point for Kia, because this is where they have an opportunity to completely turn themselves around under the leadership of Hyundai. And Hyundai is a really big company. Fast forward into 2006, Peter Schreier would take over and spearhead the lead design of many of the cars you see today, including the illustrious Kia Optima. And the first thing that Kia would do would be to rebrand themselves in 2009, and this is when you begin to see the campaign of the Kia Soul. Now, Peter Schreier is responsible for the Tiger Nose grille that you see today and became the face of Kia. And you can see it integrated in many of their different models, including the Soul, as well as the Sorento, as well as the Palisade, as well as many of their other cars. But as they've deviated from that today, we begin to see some other things. But that's not the point here. So Peter Schreier and Tom Kearns would take the company to different heights, which would eventually lead to the illustrious Kia Telluride, which the Kia Telluride were big deals for the Hyundai Motor Group because they were expanding themselves into the 3-row passenger cars. But I digress. So getting into it, they moved their operations from South Korea into the American market, which would be West Point, Georgia. How the they got that contract, I don't know, but they got it. And this would be a total of $2.2 billion in investment and would span over the course of 2,200 square miles and is located in West Point, closer towards the Alabama line, which is also closer next door to various manufacturers such as Toyota and Mercedes-Benz. The first car to ever come out of this plant was the Kia Sorento back in 2009, but the biggest car to come out of the Kia lineup is the Kia Optima as well as the Kia Soul. Part of the reason why they were very successful during this time was their marketing rebrand, as all remember the hamster wheel commercial. And the hamster wheel commercial made it really viable and palatable for the average consumer because it represented affordability, practicality, and essentially fun. I mean, I ain't gonna hold y'all, but have you ever actually driven one? I mean, I'm not gonna say they drive the best, but if you've ever experienced one, they're exceptionally fun. By doing all of this, between the rebrands and the new production models, we would also begin to see other lineups, including, like I said before, the legendary Kia Telluride, as well as the Kia Sorento and the Kia Sportage. So between those things, we begin to notice that Kia is taking the Japanese manufacturers for a spin. Respectively, between 2011 and 2022, Kia would sell a total of 7.2 million units, while Hyundai themselves would sell a total of 18.2 million units, selling a collective 15 million units. And this would be very marginal in comparison to the sales of Honda at the time. And when I tell you Kia was whooping up on that ass, they was whooping up on the ass. But that did not come without a cost. No pun intended. So before I get into the facts of what happened with the Kia boys, I want to go ahead and explain this. The reason why a lot of people like Kias today is because of their price point and what they offer in terms of value. Kia and Hyundai offers an amazing amount of technology for the dollar, and a lot of cases can be had for a relatively good price. But the oftentimes problem that you'll run into with Kia is that they depreciate like f***ing water. Now, I will say, despite them offering a really good value for the dollar, Kia in many cases has had quite their fair share of engine failures and recalls. But this is nothing like that. So going into the Kia boys essentially is a real issue for Kia. Now, I want to go ahead and explain this much. This is no way, shape, or form an indictment on Kia, and this is purely an analysis. So what ended up happening around 2022, if you remember, it was a huge part of a TikTok challenge, which is basically the Kia challenge. And what this represented was a way for young criminals to be able to steal your car with a matter of a USB switch. Now, if you have a newer Kia, this does not affect you, but this does impact a lot of the people who are on the used market, who are just looking for simple and affordable transportation. On May 18th, 2022, the Kia boys in Milwaukee would be basically coming in and taking over and wreaking havoc amongst many of the residents who own both Kia and Hyundai products. And a lot of them were simply doing it, like I said, because they were bored, because they could. Donut Media did a really good video explaining how all of this happens, but the real problem with a lot of these Kias being able to be stolen is that they are missing some very critical and important components, which only 26% of them have the actual components that they need. So one of the most important parts about the Kia issue is that it requires an immobilizer. And if you remember back in the early 90s, a lot of these cars were being stolen, but the Anti-Theft Act has been in act since 1984, and there's been a lot of different US codes that have been assigned to manufacturers that has been pretty much included to protect consumers whenever they buy a car. But there are exceptions to that, and a manufacturer can actually petition to object against putting immobilizers in their cars. And like I said, this problem goes back as far as 1984, section 2025 of the Public Law 92-513, Title 6, Section 605, which is a law that allows car manufacturers manufacturers to petition for exemptions under the Motor Vehicle Information and Cost Savings Act. Kia, as a result, was allegedly neglecting to put the immobilizers in the car for the sake of cost reduction. Now, I was doing my research and I was trying to really understand why they did not put these immobilizers in here. And these immobilizers work in a very simple way. Essentially, it is by way of a transponder from a key, and the key recognizes the transponder code. And what ends up happening is that by acceptance, it allows the car to turn on. When the car does not have that immobilizer, it allows the car to be easily taken or with a different key. And so if you have anything to fit the key teeth or to fit the compartment where the key is supposed to be inserted, it is easy to turn that lock cylinder, and thus you can basically take it. And all the Kia boys really need is a screwdriver and a USB chip, and I'm not kidding. Another big manufacturing defect was that they neglected to put alarms in the back windows, which is where a lot of the Kia boys enter into the cars. And this is a really big problem because many of the Kias that were produced between the last 10 years, as I just told you, were 15 million units. Now, I do want to be very clear that this cost-cutting measure is not necessarily confirmed, but it is not denied. Now, back in 2023, in the Central District of California, a lawsuit was filed against Kia and the Hyundai Motor Corporation, alleging that they knowingly sold more than 9 million Hyundai and Kia class vehicles to consumers that did not contain vital safety components that, in connection with other design flaws, failed to implement federal motor vehicle safety standards. And Kia also denied those allegations and essentially have said that they did everything within compliance. And so there has been a settlement that has been agreed upon, which was $200 million. But that figure was later revised to $145 million. Now, $200 may sound great, but divide that amongst the many victims of the Kia boys and how this problem will continue to exist. Now, back when I was working at Honda, I had to deal with the airbag recall, and we had to recall over 16 million units as a team, both in the north, southern, eastern, western, central regions. And so across the board, it was incredibly time consuming. It was incredibly expensive. And so this problem persists far beyond just the cost of repair. So in case you haven't been aware, this also impacts your insurance, as many insurance companies have pretty much said they're not insuring certain Kia models because of the high liability. Now, in terms of why they should or should not, that is beyond me. But to be honest with you, I can see how the insurance companies would pretty much be like, baby, I ain't doing all that. Now, of course, Hyundai has the push button start, which those vehicles are not affected because they don't have the same casings and components. Kia has done a lot of diligence to be able to say that they did something about the issue, but ultimately, overall, this was a critical mistake for Kia because this cautionary tale lets us know what companies are willing to do to be able to save $1, and unfortunately, it is at the expense of your dollar. With that being said, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what you think about the whole situation. If this cautionary tale was something we needed to take heed to, or if it's something that Kia just basically neglected because they could. And with that being said, until the next video, I will see you guys later.